Okay, I'm just gonna share my screen. I just put a file in the chat. Did everyone get that?
Yeah, we got it.
Great. And just confirm that you can see my screen. But before we go into this week's lesson, the one we did last time, does anyone have a question on that? On the previous lesson? Okay, there's none. We just go right ahead. Today we're going to be looking at text to some data functions. We're going to be looking at text to columns. We'll look at data validation, how to do some conditional formatting, how to use the text to column function in Excel. So I have this data here, which seems to be lumped up together in the same column, column B. And sometimes you will find data like this. Sometimes you might do like a bank statement download, and then it all comes in one column that you have to like split out. Or sometimes you just download something and it just puts everything in one column. Or maybe sometimes if you like copy from another application like a PDF or something, and you paste it in Excel, you find out that sometimes it's just in one column and you need to actually separate out the data. And in order to do that, you use the text to column function, which is under data and text to column. So what we're doing here is we have this data that is mixed up. It has the first name, the last name. It's got like an employee ID, and it has either full-time or part-time just at the end. So this is HR data, and you want to so you've downloaded it from one system, and you need to split it out because probably you're uploading it to another system that has different columns for all this information, and you need to split it out. So what you do first is you select your data. I'm going to select this data all the way down. So it's about almost 500 rows. And I will go to data. I'll click on text to column. So it's data, text to column. When you click on your text to column, you have your text to column wizard that comes up, and it has 3 steps in it. The first step is it wants to know what type of, how you want to split it. If your data is in a way that there's clear, that you can clearly split, but there's space in between and you can actually see and split, then you can use the fixed width option. And you can actually split it in the preview of the selected data here. But we can see that, so I'll show you how the fixed width works. But it's defaulted to delimited because it sends your data and then it will default to the best option. If that is not the best option, you can choose either of the two. I'll do the delimited one and then I'll come back and show you how the fixed width works. So delimited, I'll select that. And then if you go to next, you can see a preview of your data here. So this is your data. This is showing you the first few rows. So you can always see what your data would look like when you split it out. And then you go to next. So our data is still in the preview window. So we want the first name, we want the last name, we want the employee ID, and we want the employment status, either FT, full-time, or part-time. I can see that between the first name and the last name, there's a comma. So I can easily split this data using the comma. So anytime there's anywhere it sees a comma, I can select this comma here and it will split it. Can you see what has happened? I'm going to undo that and do it again. So you can see your data splitting. So anywhere there is a comma, is going to split it. So I know that between first name and last name, we can use a comma to split. Between the last name and the employee ID, there's a character here that we can use to split. So what I need to do is I'm going to use order to split this, and I'm going to put that character here. The only thing is I don't know where that character is on the keyboard. So what I will do is I will copy that character from this data and put it in order. So I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to go to my data. I'm going to copy this character here. And then I will start my text to column again. So we'll go to next. He already has a comma that we picked before. I'm going to put that character. I'm going to paste that character in order here. And it's going to split it between the last name and the employee ID. And the next split I want is, I want a split between the employee ID and the employment status. So there is a space between these two. So I'm going to click on space. I mean, it's unusual for you to have all this, space, comma, you just use what you have. So this is, I've put everything here so that we can see, the different options of splitting the data. So we can see that we have 4 columns here, and this is how it's going to split it. And then I click on next. When I click on next, it's going to ask me for destination where you want Excel to put this new data, because it's going to split this one column into 4. So the destination is, I want the first name in cell D4. So I'm going to change this to D4. That's where I want the first item, which is the first name. And then I'll click on finish. And this is my data here, split perfectly into 4 columns. If I want to use the fixed width, I'm just gonna, what I'll do to highlight the fixed width, I'm just gonna copy this and put on this differentiate. I'm just gonna create a data that I can use to show you how the fixed column works. So I want to Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V. I want to replace this with obviously could not find this data. Well, okay. Okay. That's weird. You couldn't find the data. Anyway, to show you how the fixed width works, I'm going to select this back. Go back to text to column. If you click on fixed width and do a next, it's expecting you to click where you want the space to be, where you want to split your text. So if I click on here, for instance, that is what is going to split it according to this lines I've put here. But because this data is not perfect, it's not perfect for fixed width, it's going to be all over the place, but I'll still show you what it will look like. So if we do next and go to finish, it will split it just the way I've put the lines. on that preview. And that is what it's going to do. This is not the perfect data to use a fixed with. Sometimes you will clearly see where to put your line and where to split it. And that is when to use a fixed width option in the text to column. So sometimes it is useful. Is this clear? Okay. Okay. Do we have any questions on this? Trust me, this text to column is very, very useful, especially when you're working with systems, because sometimes you download information that you just cannot use because everything is lumped up together. And also, there are times, most of the time, you know, when you have your information, it will probably not come up with this character that I have here. It might be that you have spaces, or maybe you have something unique that you can use to split your file. So for instance, if you want to split the file, it's always good to like put a unique character in so that you can use that character to split it. So for instance, if I want to put a unique character here, maybe between the employee ID and the full-time or part-time, the status, if there's no space in between, I can actually insert a character in it. So if I do control find, for instance, I want to insert a character between the employee ID and the status. So I can find FT. So I know I have FT and PT in this data. So I can find FT and replace FT with, let's replace FT with maybe, found that character, Ash FT. Then I'll do replace all. And then I'll look for PT and replace with hashtag PT and do replace all. And okay. If I close this, I'm just going to delete this so we can do that again. So you can see that I've inserted this hashtag in front of the status. So I can actually now use this in my text column to split the file. So if I go to text column and I go to next, instead of other here, if I do hashtag and I do finish and I do next, if I put it on the D, that's D4 and finish. So what it has done is it has actually split this, but because I don't want all this character here, I don't know what this character is called really. I can always, let's see if we can find it now, control find, because I can actually see it. I've seen it. And replace all. Let's see if we will find it. Still cannot find it. That's very strange. For some reason it doesn't find this. But to take this off, let's do another text column just on this text column. So yeah, in this case, I can actually do a fixed width. If I do a fixed width here and do a nest, if I put my line here, then it would perfectly split it. Oh, thank you, IJ. It's called approximate character. And then if I do nest, where do I want to put this? I don't want to replace my let's see, let's put it in H4 and finish. Yeah. So I've been able to take that off. So you can just move this. You can just and just replace this here. Is that clear?
Please,
if you
can
have
you
more
do
than
that
one-
once again?
Okay. Which one?
The removing the approximate character.
Okay. I'm just going to undo that. So the reason why I did it this way is because when we did the first one, I only had one other character. So I can only put one other character when I'm doing a text to column. So while I have other options, this other, I can only use one at a time. So I've used this hashtag. So that means I still have this approximate character in my data. So I was trying to remove it. I'm going to cancel this. So I'm trying to remove it from this column. So what I've done is I'm going to select just this data here and do another text to column. If it was another character, you could have just done a control find and replace. But I tried to do control find and replace. That's control F and replace. But it couldn't find this character for some reason. This approximate character it can't find it. So I'm using a text to column again to split that out. And what I'm going to do is, because this data is perfect, I can actually use fixed width. So if I do pick fixed width, I'm just going to move it to the side a bit and do a nest. I can just click between the approximate character and my number to split the text just there, because it is perfect. So it will split all the way down. And then do a nest. I don't want to replace because it's going to give me two columns. So I don't want to replace my F and G. So I'll just put it on H, column H. So I'm putting it on H4 and finish. And then you split it into two columns. Of course, I don't need this because that's what I'm trying to get rid of. And I can just copy this all the way down. I can cut that and paste here. And I've been able to get rid of that character. Is that clear?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay. So there are different ways you can achieve, your goal in Excel. It's just to try different method and see what works best for you. So that's mainly text to column. There are other things we can use text to column for. And if we go to dates, for instance, we can use text to column for dates. Delete this stuff. So if you want to convert date format, so this is converting it from American dates to European dates. And this works differently depending on what region you're in. What I will do is I'll select this, my data. I'll click on text to column. I don't need the first and the second step, so I can just skip through. I don't need all this. But what I need to use is this date here. And I need to convert the date to, let's see, finish. I'm going to undo that. So American day starts with the month, and then you have the day, and then you have the year. So to convert this, I'll select it. go to text to column, click through until I get to the last step, which is step 3 of 3. I'll click on my date and then pick the format that I want and finish. And that has converted it. Did you see that? I'm just undoing and doing it again so that you can see the change in the date format. So that will convert American date to European dates. I know there was a time we did this and someone from US was trying to do it, but it was different because the person was in a different region. So you just pick the option that works for you, depending on what region you are in. So that's converted. So you can easily use that to convert dates. And you can also use text to column to convert numbers to text. And why would you want to convert numbers to text? Sometimes you need to convert numbers to text. If you're like doing a lookup and you have a set of numbers in text and your lookup is not picking it up, because lookup will only pick up the exact, as in what it feels you're looking for. So if you have a number on one side and you're trying to look it up, even though it looks like a number, but if it's formatted as a text, then it won't find it. And the other way around, if it's formatted as a text and you're trying to look it up to a number, then it won't find it. So you might have to convert either your number to text or your text to number. So I've got the employee IDs here, which are numbers. So what I've done here is to check. You can check if it's a text or a number by using the formula is text. So so what you're saying is it a text? If it's text, it will be true. If it's a number, it will be false. So if we convert this to a number, then is it text? This our formula, it would all be true. So we want to use text to column to convert this to a text. So what I will do is I'll select the numbers, go to text to columns. I'll click through to the last step, and we want to convert to text. So you pick the text here and finish. And it's converted into text. And you can see that our formula is now true because we have converted all of this to text. If we want to convert it back to number, we can use several methods. We can use a formula. You can use equal to number value. Click on the text and enter. And this will convert it to numbers. So these are numbers. I'm going to copy that and paste it here. And then you can see that is it a text function is now false because this is back to numbers. I'm going to undo that. The simplest way to also convert, if a number formatted as a text to number is multiplying that number by 1. If you multiply it by 1, equal to, if you multiply this by 1, you will convert it to a number. So Ctrl+C, and then it's back to a number. Another way to convert it is by, using the function here to convert to a number. So if you select all the way down and go to the function here, so if it's a number that is formatted as a text, it will always come up with this like a warning, letting you know that the numbers are formatted as a text. So if you go click the down arrow and convert to number, it will convert everything to number. These are sometimes if you have a long if you have a lot of data, it will be quite slow using that option. But depending on the size of the data, then you can just like literally just convert it like that. And let's go back. Let's go back to text. And no, I was gonna, let me leave it in number. So if you want to use a formula to convert the number to text, so we can do equal to text, open a bracket, click on what you want to convert, comma, and the format will be 0000, enter. Oh no, close the bracket. Okay, no. Equal to text, comma, so this has converted. That is converted to a text. And if I copy that and paste here, we will see that is it a text? It's true, because that formula has converted it to a text. Is this clear? The next thing we're going to look at on that data is data validation. And data validation is part of your data tools. Sometimes, when you have like a form and there's a drop-down arrow limiting you to picking just some particular options or limiting the type of inputs you can put in a cell, what they probably use is data validation. And that is, they've limited the cell, your input, to particular cells. So I have a list of names here, and I have some colors here. So you probably done a form to send out, and you've asked people to fill a form. But because you want to limit their answers, what they can put in the cell, you need to include data validation, so that when they return the files, they return the forms, you are able to analyze better. So if you want them to just put like a one-word answer, you limit it to that, so that, when it comes back, it's not like an epistle in the cell. In this case, I want to limit the inputs under this name, this cell here. I want to limit the input only to these names for whatever reason. And you can use any list. So what you do is you click on the cell, you go to your data, and there is this function called data validation. You see, depending on your Excel, you see a data validation under data. If I click on data validation here, it comes up with a box. And the first thing is the validation criteria. So what do you want in this cell? It differs to any value, so you can put anything. But in this case, I want a list. And I want to limit the list to just these names here. So on the source, I've put H3 to H8, which are where my names are. And what I want to do is, I don't want anyone to put anything apart from these names in this cell. Otherwise, come up with an error message. Okay, use only the names on the list. Okay, for this, it won't even let you do anything. When you say stop, it won't let you do anything. If you put one in, it will come up with a one. If it's information that you want to pass across, it will come up with information. But let's start with stop. and OK. So if I click on the cell, there's now a drop-down arrow beside the cell. If I click on the arrow, I can only pick all these names, because that's what I only want in the cell. If I try to put my name, for instance, let's put Kemi and enter, it's going to come up with that message that will put, use only the names on the list. No matter how much you retry, it's going to come up with that. It won't let you put any other thing apart from the list that is already set. So I'm going to cancel this and pick one of the names, and then it will let me move on. If on the color, I only want these 3 colors, red, green, and yellow, I'll go to data validation. So I want from the list, and then I'll put the source of my list here. And on the error alerts, I'm just going to put a warning. And I'm going to say, we only have the 3 colors on the list available. Okay. So you have been warned if you pick another color, maybe you're buying something and I only have them in these 3 colors. So when you click on the arrow, of course, if you click any of the colors, it's fine on the arrow. If I don't want any of these colors and I want to like put purple and enter, it's going to say we only have the 3 colors on the list available. And because it's just a warning I've put, you can still bypass this and it will ask you continue. Yes. So I'm going to put purple at my own risk because they don't have purple available, but I've decided to put purple. If it's information you want to pass across, if you use the data validation, and it will be information and OK. And then when you put another color, lilac, enter, it pops up with the information. We only have the 3 colors on the list available. Okay. So the other one was like a warning. This is just passing across information. Is that clear? Okay. So this is really useful when you want people to just put particular things and you don't want them to bypass what you've done. If you just use the stop one, like what we have here, and of course, you can always change your data validation. You can always edit, and you can always point your, always remember to select the cell, data validation, and if you want to put an input message, you can actually show a message here when people click on the cell. Cancel. And once you have it in a cell, you can actually drag that. If you drag that all the way down, I'm going to delete this. You would have the list all the way down. So it would work the same way, like what you've put in. It won't let you put any other thing because we put a stop on this. And this, you can drag all the way down and it will just be those colors there. IJ.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, how do you place a security so that someone cannot go and change, what you've done? You understand?
So that they can't go in and
change
your list, right?
Yes,
they can go in and change your list. So you're going to have to lock the cells. Oh,
Okay.
Let's see if we can do it from here. You're going to have to lock your cells. Review. Let's review this and protect. So cancel. Let's see. Format cell protection. If I remove the locked one, if I remove the lock, if I protect my sheets, just the unlock cell, password to unprotect, let's see. Let's put
You can put your name.
let's put color. No, that's not working. Okay. Did you see what I did now? No, did I? I think I
Yes, I
selected
did.
the wrong. No, I think I selected the wrong one. So if you go to review, if I'm going to unprotect this. This is my former cells. So this is unlocked. Let me. That's locked. That is unlocked. Okay. So if I protect the sheet, okay. So what I've done is, because I've protected this sheet, if you click on the cell, if you go to data validation, you can't, it's not highlighted anymore. So you can't change. You can't
Okay.
change what is there. And you can't do a lot of things because I've protected the sheet. So all you can do is just pick your option and move on. However, always remember that when you protect your sheet, if you forget the password, then
You're in trouble.
you are in
Wahala.
trouble. If anyone knows how to retrieve like a sheet that you protected and you've forgotten your password, then please let me know. I'd like to have that information. So I'm always very cautious when I protect worksheets or protect workbooks, or you put a protection to open, you put a password to open the file. Once you forget it, that is it. That's the work gone. So you can add protection to your spreadsheet to prevent people from changing it. Conditional formatting. Is data validation okay? And one thing with data validation again, let me just so for this one, I'm gonna put yellow. Oh, yellow is part of it. Blue is not part of it. We only have 3 colors. Okay. So you have all the lists. Everything is returned. You have a long list, but because you haven't stopped people from putting other colors, you want to know
which ones are out of your list. So you can do, if you select the data, if you go to the data, you can, if you click on the data validation, you can ask it to circle invalid data. And then you can easily see the ones that are not on your original list that have been picked. So it's just data validation, circle invalid data. And of course, to clear that, clear validation circles. So if you want to see at a glance what other colors people have put, of course, you can always filter if it's a very long, data, you can always apply a filter to see what colors they have picked. And if we apply a filter, data filter, and I have a long list. No, okay, I think we'll do that on conditional formatting. We can use conditional formatting to put a lot of like colors, and especially when we are working with numbers, to highlight some things on our numbers. So I've got this simple budget versus actuals and variance. And you have a report, you're presenting this, and you need to monitor this like probably every month. And you know that your budgeted sales, you have a particular level of budget that you have, and you know that if you're not meeting up to the actual sales, then you're underperforming. If you're doing more than the budgeted sales, then you're overperforming. And you want to like put some colors on this data, maybe for your reports or for a presentation. You can use conditional formatting, and conditional formatting is under home. So on my variance, what I want to highlight is my variance. I want to show the people who are doing well, highlight them in green. The people who are not doing so well, that is any variance below 0, highlight them in red. You can use a conditional formatting, and you have different options in conditional formatting. If you want to use if you want to use greater than, for instance, format any cells greater than, if you are greater than 1,000, no, let's do 2,000. Greater than 1,900. And if it's greater than 1,900, I want you to green fill, okay? So it's filled this in green, so I can see that these people are doing much better than budget. You can also, it might be, I'm just going to undo that. I like using the icon sets, and you can actually use any of these functions. If you look at my data, you can see the way it's changing based on what I'm trying to select here. So you can use the shapes. If you use this, for instance, let's start with this. So this is giving me it's defaulted to like anything. You just look at the highest figure, the lowest figure, and it's defaulted to one green, 24,000. Yeah, it's much higher than the rest, and the rest are red. But I don't want it to look like this, because if you're 2,000 above your budget, you're still doing well. So what I want to do is I want to format this rule that I've applied. So if I go to manage rules, I can edit my rule. And what I want to do is, when my value is, if it's above 2,000, if it's above, let's see, above or equal to 2,000, I want that in green. No, I want number here. So 2,000, I want that in green. And then if it's less than 2,000 and greater than, let's say, greater than 0, you've still met your, I want number. And then anything below 0, that means you're not meeting your budgeted sales target. I want it in red. Okay, let's be a bit kind. Maybe if you're just 1,000 below, you shouldn't be so red. Let's say -1,000. Okay, let's do okay. And I'm going to apply this rule and okay. Can you see what has happened to this? So I have some amber here, and this is based on the rule I've set. And I want to put another set of icons under my risk. I'll make, so if I do equal to this, so the ones that are doing very well, probably very low risk, I want to make them green. I can insert, let me do another rule. I'm going to use this. Let me use the traffic light system. And I'm going to manage my rules, edit rule. So for this one, when my value is, I don't want percentage, I want number. So when it's above, probably should be green. Maybe when you're above 10,000, then you're well. You're amber if you're less than 10,000, and let's say probably 2005 or 2000. Let's use 2000. And you're red when you're, this is number 2000. And then what I want under risk is I only want to show the icon. I don't want to show the numbers. And okay, and apply. Can you see what has happened? I've put like this traffic light beside. And when this number changes, because this is linked to this, it will change. So if, for instance, this -1,000, if they start doing 25,000 actual sales, oh, you know what? I have my formulas the other way around. So equal to, no, it's fine. It's just because my sales, let me change this to expenditure instead of sales. Expenditure and actual. I don't want to start fiddling with the signs, but finance people would know that our sales are usually negative on the books. So this is what I want, because if you're spending more than your budget, then you are negative and you are high risk. And if you're spending less, so if I have this as actual expenditure, if it's 7, it should be amber. Or if you're 2, okay, trying to make it change. I hope that is clear. So you can literally do whatever, you can set your rules and do whatever you want with these icons. And there are different ones you can use. You can use any of these icon sets. You can also use you can use color scales to actually highlight your data. So it would just look at your data, which if it's high, so if we pick this, for instance, 56 is red, 17 is amber, 2000 is green. So it will give you different gradients of the colors depending on your numbers. So if we have if our numbers extend to like if we have like 0 And then we have like 89, let's do 89,000. You can see the 56 has changed. That was the highest before, it was red, but because I put a higher number, so sometimes when you want your gradient to work, it will look at a different number. Sometimes you might have to, hide some numbers, like hide some columns, depending on what you're doing, so that you can have the right gradient of colors, the mix of colors. And you can change the mix of these colors by using the manage rules. If you edit rule, you can actually, you can swap the values. So your minimum is your lowest value. Lowest number is, your lowest value, if we want to make that red, and the highest value, we want to make it like green or something. Apply and okay. And then you can swap it depending on what you're trying to like represent on your data. I'm just gonna clear that. What you can use conditional, I think we've touched on conditional formatting before. What you can use conditional formatting for as well is to highlight your duplicate values. I think when we're doing VLOOKUP, before you can do VLOOKUP, you need to make sure you have unique values. And a way to check for duplicate values is to use conditional formatting to highlight duplicate values in your data. So if I have north here again, and maybe south, if I select this data and I go to conditional formatting, highlight cells, I can highlight duplicate values, and it would highlight my duplicate values for me. If I delete this south, then the other south is normal because it's no more duplicates. So I delete the north, then it's fine. I don't have any duplicate values. So you can play around with your conditional formatting depending on what you want to do, really. Is that clear? The next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on an actual interview question, and I'm going to put the file here. I'm going to put the file in the chat. Did we get the file?
Yes, we did.
Okay. So this is an actual interview question. And you find this in a lot of, like, a couple of organizations, especially when they know that you're going to be using Excel, just to test your knowledge of Excel. And if you're going to be working with data, these are the basic things you need to know. And what this covers what we've done from the beginning of this another session, from when we started this set of Excel. And it looks at pivot tables, it's looking at charts, and you're going to use your lookup functions here as well. So the question is, you're given a set of data from an organization. Let me just enable. I mean, I'm just trying to open this properly. Okay, just checking that you can still see my screen, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So the instruction is, you've been given information in part 1 data, and you're meant to create pivot tables. So they've given you different criteria to put in. And you're meant to create as many pivot tables as necessary to be able to produce the data they want. This is based on an organization, and they have these employees. You have the employee ID, you have the department where they work, their gender, employment status, either temporary or permanent, and the financial year they relate to, and the count of employees. The instruction says you should populate the department headcount data in the first table on your report template. So we have this report template. You're meant to populate this. I am meant to populate the headcount data in the first table for 22-23. So your headcount per department, your active permanent headcount, active non-permanent headcount, and total active headcount. So what's the first thing we need to do if we have this question? What should we do in the first instance? So you've gone for an interview and you've been given this, and don't forget we've done this in the class. So please, let's do this together. How do we get this information that they're asking us? And we need to know that this is time bound. So we're on the clock. We're meant to get the department name, active permanent head count, non-permanent head count, total active head count. What's the first thing we should do to this data to summarize the data? Hello? Is anyone going to help us? Pivot table. Thank you, Moyo. Pivot table. So let's do it together, please. Let's do this together. Let's put it in a pivot and then get the information we are required to get. So the first thing we do with a pivot is we select our data, and they've been so generous. They've given us quite a number of, we have 27,777. So there's no way you can do this manually. And this is the type of question you get in the exam. You can't do it manually. It's either you know it or you don't know it in the interview, I mean. So we select the data and then we put it in a pivot. So we have to insert our pivot here. So I would go to insert, pivot table. My table range is, I'm going to select the data all the way down. And I'm putting it in an existing worksheet. Okay. And then we have the canvas for the pivot. What do we need on this pivot table based on our report template? We need the department's name, right?
Yeah.
So let's start with the department's name here. And we need active permanent head count. So we know that we need permanent, and we need to separate permanent and non-permanent. Okay. So what do we do? So employment, where's our permanent or non-permanent? Is under type. So we would have type. Let's put type. I'm thinking we should put type on column. Let's put type on column. And we also want either active or non-active, right? So we want active permanent head count. We want active non-permanent head count. So we want total active. We don't want non-active. So let's use that as a filter. That's the employment status. Let's put employment status under of as a filter. No. I'm just gonna, yeah, so we have more space here. Employment status as the filter. Okay. And we know we want, as a filter, we can just filter what we don't need. They're asking us for only permanent, right? So let's filter just on active, okay? And then we're looking for department head count data in the first table for financial year 22-23. So they only want us to give the data for 22-23. So on our data, financial year, we have 4 here. So we only need 22-23. So we need to use our financial year as a filter. So I'll add financial year to filter. And we only need 22-23. 22-23. Okay. Okay. And we are meant to, this is meant to be a count, right? Of permanent positions. So we have permanent. Let me start. I'm going to move this permanent here. I'm going to change my pivots. I'm going to make it a classic one. Okay. So it's clearer. And then I want to start with permanent because I know I need permanent and then I need the non-permanent. We've already filtered on active. So we know that we won't have non-active on this. And then we want the total, right? So permanent staff, let's count. We're going to have to put a count, employee count. Let's put it here on the values. So they're giving us the head count, and this is what we have. So we got active employees, financial year 22-23. We have the different departments, and we have our total is 9083. How do we know this is correct? Let's do a quick check. So we should have, so if I filter by just active and filter by 22-23, my employee count 9083, which is 9083. So it's always good to like do a quick check just to make sure that your pivot table is picking what you expect it to pick. But sometimes you might think that you've selected all the data and you haven't selected everything. So just doing a quick check to make sure that you have everything selected. So this is our pivot. So we have our permanent, we have our bank staff. So we know that we have our department name here. So we can easily just copy our department's name and paste it here on our table. Our active permanent head count. We know this is our active permanent head count. Is 106. I mean, you can actually copy and paste it, right? But we're doing, this is an interview. How would they know that we know how to do VLOOKUP if we don't use our VLOOKUP? So I'm going to use VLOOKUP. So it will be equal to VLOOKUP. And the reason why I'm using VLOOKUP also, not just to show that you know how to use VLOOKUP, but because our pivot table, if for any reason we haven't picked the right filters and we change it, then we don't have to copy and paste again because you're time conscious. So that when we change the pivot table, whatever we have here will change as well. So I'll use equal to VLOOKUP, and I'm looking up the name, comma. I'm looking it up. I'm going to select my table, comma, 2, false. Enter. I hope you're getting this. This is where all the things we've done previously. I'll look up. So I can just drag that down to get my total. I'll just add that and insert a total. So I've got my active permanent head count. So the active non-permanent head count. So we have permanent. And then our bank staff, our contract staff, our temporary staff, I'm just going to assume that they are not permanent. Because anything other than permanent, anything other than permanent is non-permanent. So how do we get our non-permanent? What do we do? I can bring in the total active head count, which is the total active. This is my grand total here. And just do total minus permanent. Right? So I'll use the same VLOOKUP. I'm just going to copy this. And before I copy, I'm just going to freeze the right cells so that my formula does not move. I'm going to copy that and paste it here. And I'm going to change this to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to change it to 6. And then my non-permanent will be equal to my total minus my permanent. And all I need to do is just drag that all the way down. And I've got my table. I feel like I've done this all by myself, which is not right, because it's your interview. But is this clear?
Yes.
Okay. So that's the first table done. And please always read, always read the double read, as in double check the instructions, just to make sure that you are picking the right data. So they've already told us they want active permanent head count. It has to be for 22-23. And they want the non-active permanent head count, and then the total active head count. So that's the first one done. We've populated the department head count data. And we've been asked to create a table of overall total female and male counts for 22-23. And you don't need to break the data down by department. So table of overall total female and male counts for 22-23. What do we do? How do we do this? How do we do this? What can we use? There are different methods to do this. What can we use to get the overall total male or female?
Can we use filter?
We can filter. When you say filter, what do you mean?
So we're having, I may be wrong, but we're having overall total female and male count. So if we use filter to get only the female,
You mean filter this data?
yes, and get only female, then we're able to.
So that means we're going to do that manually. If you filter by female, but this is an interview, they don't expect you to do it manually because they're actually testing your Excel skills. So they won't expect you to filter and now count. But we can use a pivot, right? I think there's someone in the chat. We can use if function. Yeah, we can use if function. We can use the count if or sum if because we have the counts. We can use a pivot table. If we use it, we already have our pivot here. So it's easy to do. We can just, if we copy these pivots, once you have your pivots, you have one already. Right? And don't forget that on the instruction, they said you can create as many pivots as necessary. So they expect us to create a lot of pivots. So I would use a pivot again, because we already have one pivot. There's no time to create another one. Let's just copy. We'll just copy this. I'm just going to paste it here. So you can copy your pivot and paste here. And on the instruction, they said they don't want us to break it down by department, right? They only want male and female. So if I go to my pivot table options, if I go to the field list, I don't need department, so I can unselect department. I just need female or male. We don't need we need, what else do we need? We just need counts for 22-23. So we need the financial year. So we leave the financial year in, and we take off the employee status. We have to remove the filter. And employee status, we don't need that. So we can remove the employee status. And what they want is just total overall male and female. Where's my pivot again? Pivot here. So female and male, we don't need the type. I'll take the type off. And this is female and male. So we have 9402 in 22-23. That's 22-23, 9402. And you can easily just copy this. I can copy this and paste here on my report. So that's your table. So you have a table of female and male counts for 22-23. One thing we can also use is we can use the if. We can use if. So if we go to, so if you put your female and male, Control C, equal to sum if. No, it's going to be some ifs, right? Because we are looking for, we have two criteria. It has to be financial year 22-23. While the pivot table is the fastest thing to do, we can use the if to get this. If we go to financial year, I'm just going to move this down. My financial year is just gonna make sure I copy exactly from the table. Ctrl V. And then female and male. That's my total. If we do equal to sum, it will be sum ifs. And our sum range, it will be the count. So, escape. Let me just clear the filter on the data first. Clear filter. So it will be sum ifs. Open a bracket. Our sum range would be the head count here. So we select that all the way down, comma. And our criteria for that, our first criteria, sorry, yeah, sum if part 1 data G2, comma. My first criteria is financial year. So that the first criteria range, I need to select the financial year. So I'll go to the data. I'm going to select the financial year. I thought I cleared this data. Did I not? Okay, I'm just going to escape that. Let me go back to the data and just clear everything. I'm just going to clear everything. Just give me a minute. Okay, so I've cleared the data. I hope you can hear me. I've cleared the data. So I'm going to go back and do my if. So my equal to sum ifs, and we're using sum ifs because we have two criteria to insert. And we'll start with the sum range. So this is what I want to sum. That will be the count, comma. My first criteria is going to be the year, the financial year. So the range, I'm going to select that all the way down, comma, and select this is my year. And don't forget to freeze that. We're gonna do all the freezing later, comma. And my criteria range 2 will be either female or male, which will be column C. So I'm going to select that all the way down, comma. And then my second criteria is this. Enter. Can you see what we got? It's the same as what we have on from our pivots. So for me to drag this down, I have to make sure that I've frozen the cells I need to freeze here so it doesn't move. This cell is not meant to move, so I need to freeze that, which is J7, which is my first criteria. So my first criteria, J7, I need to freeze that. And the female here, I need it to move rows, so I need to freeze the column. So I'll just freeze the column. I'll freeze I by putting a dollar in front and enter. So that when I drag this down to the next cell, it would give me exactly what I want. It will be picking up the male, and I can just do a sum, total. And this is another way to get your table. So we now have to do a pie chart of active and leave. We need to put a pie chart of active and leave. So what's the first thing we'll do again? Let's do another pivot table for active and, so we want active and leave only. They have not indicated what year they want it for. So it's just all the years, active and leave. Or is it just, let me see the instruction. Oh, pie chart of total active for 22-23. So it's for 22-23. So let's do active and leave for 22-23. I'm going to copy this. Ctrl C. I'm going to paste it here. So that's another pivot. And we want financial year 22-23, but now we want active and leave. So where's that on our data? Active and leave is on employee status. So that's what we need. Instead of female or male, we need employee status. So we're just going to put employee status here. So we have active, and we have leave, and we have unknown. We have two unknowns. And we've been asked to do a pie chart. So how do we do a pie chart? We can easily do a pie chart from our pivot table here. So if we go to pivot table analyze, we can insert a pivot chart. And they've asked us for a pie chart, which is this. And okay. So that's what we have. We have our employee status. We have active, which is the majority. We have a few on leave. But to actually show, let's pick another, let's pick the one with the percentage. Yeah. And then we can change this to library active versus others. And I can copy my pie and just put it here where they want the pie here. So that's the pie chart. And what else do they want us to do? So create a line chart of overall head count by fiscal year. The overall head count by fiscal year. So we want fiscal year and we want the total head count. We already have our pivots, so we don't need to. I'm just going to delete this here. We have our pivots. I'll just copy these pivots again. Let me paste it here, Ctrl V. And what do we need this time around? We need total count by financial year. I will bring up my field list. So financial year now, I don't need a filter on financial year anymore. It's going to be all. And I'm going to move it from filter to row. Move that to row. We don't need active or leave anymore. So I'm going to take out employee status. And that is simply it. Financial year head count. That's what we've been asked to do. So create a line chart of the overall head count by financial year. So we've done the pivots and we now need a line chart. So we just go to pivot table, analyze, insert pivot charts. And this time around, they want a line chart. So let's pick that, simple line. And here. So we have our head count by fiscal year. So that's yeah. These are data. We have 22. So we have here 22, 21. Went up and then it's gone down. And then we can change this to head count by financial year. Okay, we can I pick another one. Maybe pick this. This looks different. Yeah. And then what else are we meant to do? Yeah, create a line chart. Add a report title. Add your report title, employee analysis by type, financial year, and any notes as required. Is this clear? So if you can do this, please try this on your own. This is an actual interview test. So please try it on your own. And always remember, the more you practice, the faster you can do this, because you only have like even the 1 hour, you might be asked to do other things like analyze your results and stuff and do a report. So the faster you can do your Excel analysis, that should be the quickest. The earlier you can get to, your report, and then you won't be pressed for time. So please try and do this. And these are things you get in interviews. Is that clear? I'm gonna send us. Thank you. So you can practice this. I'm gonna put another test, practice exercise in the chat box now. And this is meant to be done before next week. Next week will be our last lesson, our last Excel lesson, and we're going to be looking at this next week. And this covers what we have done so far. So I'll put another file here. Please, if you can share it with people who are not here, that will be helpful. Please, if you can put it on the Telegram group as well for people who are not here. So you can practice with this, and then we'll go over it next week.
Okay.
So practice the interview exercise and actually do the class exercise. The class exercise next week, we're going to be looking at different people will be sharing their screen so that we can see what you've done. So it's going to be very interactive next week. Please do it before the class so that you can share your work and we can see different aspects of your work. And please, it's really important to do this interview exercise. Please do it before next week. If you have any questions, we can deal with it next week. Because listening to it, you will think that you know it, but when you actually try and do it, that is when you have some queries and you have some questions. So please try and do it. And then next week we'll look at it again. Okay. Do we have any questions before we close tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to ask, so after doing this, we're supposed to put it in a report format. Can we by any chance have maybe steps on how to approach if you're having to put it in a report format?
So if you're having to put it in a report format, it will just be you interpreting your results. So for instance, if we look at it depends on, there will be questions around the reports, and it would be you analyzing the report. So it might be like, okay, we have 6,000 female and 3,000 male. So it might be like, maybe you might talk around maybe diversifying the workforce. You have double the amount of female here than male. So maybe they can benefit from more diversity. It might be the active and leave and the number of people on on leave as against active, and also like the unknown. Why are they unknown? Like what is happening? So it depends on what you've been asked to do in the report. And also you can talk, it might be around your department and maybe the number of people in the department. So this is mainly like HR data.
Okay.
And also you might want to talk about the percentage of non-active staff compared to active. Like in children's services, we have quite a number of active non-permanent staff. Is there a reason for that? It might be that maybe because sometimes when you have like a lot of non-permanent staff, it might be that maybe your work is linked to like a contract that has a time, that is time bound. So you just have to recruit people just within that contract that you have. That might be the reason. So it depends on what you've been asked to do. It depends on the type of organization as well. That will determine the type of reports you'll be asked to do.
Okay, thank you so much. So it's basically just explaining the insights, whatever the insights that you've gotten from me.
Yeah, whatever you've gotten, the information you have, because the first step is putting this information together like this. And the next step, the main step, will be like interpreting the data. What can you infer from this data? I mean, if you have like the non-permanent staff, for instance, where you have a high level of non-permanent staff usually costs more than permanent staff. So it might be something to talk about because they will be spending more if they have more non-permanent staff. Yeah.
Okay.
But if they have like a fixed contract and then they now employ permanent staff, what if that contract ends? How do you fund, your permanent staff? And also you can talk about like the change of like on the line chart, you can talk about the change in the staff numbers from one year to the other. If you look at the staff numbers, 2022-23, they had 9,000 staff, and suddenly that dipped to 2,000.
Yes.
What happened? Did they downsize?
Okay.
Yeah, it's just, to talk, but the question will give you an insight into, I've just only pulled out the data, the Excel bits, but the data will give you an insight. So, because there are questions. Once you summarize the data, it will throw out a lot of questions on why. Of course, you're not going to say you can see that they've downsized, but you don't know the reason why. So your reports might be like in form of like the question.
Yes,
is significantly reduced. Yeah. Is there any reason why it might be that they've actually downsized? They would have restructured for it to go from 9,000 to 2,000. That's really huge.
Okay, thank you so much. The data for the practice, it's not on the chat box.
Oh,
here.
sorry. I put it there and I didn't send it.
Okay.
I'm just going to click send now.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for spotting that. Yeah, so the class exercise is there now. Let's do it before next week, and then we can discuss it next week. If there are no more questions, then this is where we're going to end this week, and I will see you all next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks a lot. See you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
IJ, do you want to stop recording?
Thank you.
IJ.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
it's Kemi
Kemi
that is
that is
recording.
recording.
Kemi, please, could you want to stop recording? Let me call her. I don't know if she's there.